fans. So it was announced very recently that the Magic Treehouse book franchise will be turned into a movie and hopefully a movie franchise. As a kid that grew up reading those books, I'm immensely excited as I've been waiting for this day for years. But it did get me thinking, what would be some other great kids books that really deserve to be turned into movies? So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to count down the top 5 best children's books to deserve to be turned into movies. However, I'll be excluding any young adult stuff. So the Animorphs or Artemis Fowl books, they're out because they're for more mature readers like the young adult/teenagers. This is solely going to be for the kids, and that's illustrated very well with my number 5 pick, Captain Underpants. Now, I didn't read too much Captain Underpants as a kid, but even as a kid, I could see the impact that the books had on young readers when I was younger. Captain Underpants got a lot of kids reading. It got on their level. It was poop and fart jokes, but that's what got kids to read, and that's ultimately a good thing. It got more people reading. The basic premise is basically a principle. When a magic word is spoken, becomes the great Captain Underpants, and he goes off on these wacky, silly, childish adventures. And I think if you make it specifically for children, which it should be, this could be a very fun and enjoyable movie. I definitely have Kevin James as Captain Underpants. That's just casting that writes itself. I'm not a huge Captain Underpants fan, but I think, how have we not gotten at least some iteration of it, whether that be an animated movie or a live-action movie, which would be really scarring, but it's a kid's movie. Surprisingly, we haven't got any iteration of this story yet, and I think it's due for a interpretation of some kind, hopefully a kid's movie. At number 4, we go with the exaggerated hyperbole that is, if you give a mouse a cookie. This could be played exceptionally well and kind of like a Jumanji style of you start here and you end here with a big massive story. Of if you give a mouse a cookie is basically all the exaggerated story elements of, okay, if this one thing goes wrong, this one thing could go wrong. And if that one thing goes wrong, then this one thing could go wrong. And if all that goes wrong, we're standing on top of a Ferris wheel trying to pick down a mouse. That doesn't actually happen in the book, but it's more or less an exaggeration of, this is how much things can go out of proportion if you give a mouse a cookie. This could be a really cute and endearing tale. We've gotten some good, cute mouse movies in the past with Ralph S. Mouse or even Tale of Despero, which also is a great favorite of mine as a kid. But if you give a mouse a cookie, it can be really cute and endearing and a really fun, unique type of movie. And you could really adapt basically the book for a younger audience, and it would work perfectly. At number 3, we have probably the most personal pick for me, Frog and Toad. Now, I grew up reading Frog and Toad all the time. It was one of my favorite franchises, and all it is really is this simple story of a frog and a toad. Not complicated. Basically, picture animal versions of Bert and Ernie, and that's what Frog and Toad were. They taught kids essentially about friendship. You wouldn't need a really complicated story at all. You could just have 2 friends that go on a series of random adventures and really showcase some good friendship. There's one where Frog was sick in bed and Toad helped him. So you could do this like great loving friendship type of story, and the world is big. You can make any form of possibilities. The books themselves never had much of a structure, but you could just have those 2 elements of Frog and Toad, and I'd obviously make an animation, open up a world of possibilities. But basically just have those 2 as a central character and have them go on some crazy adventure with the 2 of them being the core the whole time, because that's what it is. Frog and Toad just being friends and doing life together. And I think that could be fun and endearing for younger audiences. At number 2, we have a movie that I heard many years ago was getting turned into a movie, but I haven't heard anything since, so that's why it's on this list. It's definitely one of my favorite books as a kid, Encyclopedia Brown. Encyclopedia Brown was like the go-to children's detective books to read, written by Donald J. Sobel. Any other kids' mystery kind of failed in comparison. You had your Cam Jensens and your Nate the Great, which both were fantastic, but failed to live up to Encyclopedia Brown standards. Like, that is the standard for children's mystery. You could just finish them in like 2 to 5 minutes, but they opened up a world of unique possibilities. So what Encyclopedia Brown was Encyclopedia Brown's father was a police officer, and he would always come home for dinner with his family, And he basically, whenever he was stuck on a case, he'd ask his son Encyclopedia, he'd tell him all the details, and his son would figure out what's wrong with the mystery. And Encyclopedia Brown also had his own mystery shop, like detective workshop set up, and he charged a quarter or nickel, whatever, I forget what it is. And he would solve the neighborhood crimes for kids. And that's a great premise in and of itself. You could just have a kid detective running around the neighborhood solving the local crimes, and maybe even stumbling upon something he shouldn't have, and he works with his dad to solve like the biggest neighborhood mystery. For me, I loved mysteries as a kid. Sherlock Holmes, Encyclopedia Brown, anything I could get my hands on that came to mysteries. Encyclopedia Brown, I think, drew me in the most because it was so relatable. If he was an average kid with a great memory and just loved mysteries and he was really good at it, I think that could work very, very well on the big screen if done correctly, and I think we will get that eventually. It's very, very possible. I heard that we were going to get one a couple years ago, but I haven't heard anything since, so I don't know if that's still in production or not, thus it's on this list. Now, at number 1, we've got the love affair for me that is Little Bear. I desperately, desperately, desperately want a Little Bear movie someday. Now, I grew up watching the TV show, but he does actually come from literary origins. He's a book character first. Now, however, this could just be asking too much. When I get a Little Bear movie, which will happen someday, I know it, I don't want him to come alone. I want him to have a special friend. Franklin. We want a Franklin Little Bear crossover. Somebody make it happen. Both of these characters come from literary origins and had very much the same art style, so it was weird that they never ever crossed paths. Like, maybe in a toothpaste commercial, but never in an animated form. Which is kind of odd because Franklin had a best friend named Bear, but it wasn't Little Bear. Like, they look similar, but it wasn't Little Bear. So maybe you have these two distinct characters that cross one day and just go on this fun animal adventure. I don't know what the story could be, but this whole book franchise and television series really sparked a lot of kids' imaginations, and they grew up reading these stories and watching the show. So there's a huge market for Little Bear and Franklin both, and so if you bring them together, that could be a bigger crossover than the Avengers. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. That's a bigger crossover than the Avengers because Franklin and Little Bear are amazing. Well, what do you guys think? What are some of your favorite kids' books that you'd like to see turned into movies one day? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you see and you want to see more, subscribe to the channel, or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at 17 Movie Reviews. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals!